leave home for a few days, and look what happens.
If the rumors are true, we're probably heading back to the One Ring where it all began within the next week or so. As of this recording, there have been enough leaks about this unconfirmed project to fill an entire video with speculating bloat. But that's not what I want to focus on today. What really matters is that it's all but confirmed we'll be getting the big reveal of the Halo Combat Evolved Remake at the Halo World Championship in Seattle later this month. And if you're anything like me, that news sparks a wave of nostalgia and some cautious hype as that date gets closer. But just as a reminder, there is nothing concrete about all these claims, so be prepared to possibly see something completely different revealed at the event. We do know they're showing something, but while we're having fun speculating, why not just play around in this sandbox for a little while? Just days ago, GameSpot ran a bombshell report that this new remake was developed in part by Virtuos Studios, the same team that brought us this year's Oblivion remaster, and are working in collaboration with Halo Studios. Word is that they've been using a hybrid engine setup, leveraging the core mechanics base of the Halo Reach engine, but marrying it with Unreal 5's visual fidelity. This will also probably be the first Halo to ever land on the PlayStation platform, opening the floodgates for a new era of cross-platform Halo presence. Why they're using a 15-year-old game as the bones of this new title is a bit strange to me, considering Reach plays so different than the original CE, but I guess this just means that they're going back to the drawing board a bit in some regard when it comes to the way they want this game to play. Originally, when rumors of this started to circulate early in the year, I was expecting something that was more of a remake from scratch or reimagining of the original game, but the more things that come out, it's starting to feel like Halo CE Anniversary 2.0. It's the foundation of modern console shooters, the blueprint for Bungie's golden age, and the soul of Halo's mythology. And I'd say Halo Studios is on a bit of a lifeline with this one, because at this point in their time with the series, they really need this one to be a hit. If not, the risk is more harm than good. In this video, I'm diving into 3 absolutely non-negotiable pillars that the rumored remake must deliver on to not only win back longtime fans, but to prove to new players that Halo still belongs at the top. Because without these details, to me, it'll just be another missed shot in the Halo modern saga. If there's one thing most fans can agree on, it's that the so-called remake of Halo CE that was released for the game's 10th anniversary back in November 2011 missed the mark. It stripped away much of the original soul and core design philosophy. Light textures weren't mood setting, the sky felt beautiful but distracting, and somehow the reused assets and skins for later titles in the series just came off as clunky and undefined.
Facial expressions look way better, but I think it's because there's just less going on and your brain's putting together what's happening. It's like way more cartoony and just like and your brain's like, oh no, he's just talking. But the other ones, they're trying like too hard.
Visually, it replaced the cold, mysterious tone of the original with a bright, more generic sci-fi aesthetic that clashed with the game's atmosphere. The art direction in key moments, like the eerie discovery of the Flood or the quiet desolation of Halo's environments, lost their emotional weight. On top of that, the updated cutscenes somehow felt more dated.
These old cutscenes are just really choppy, I think, and when you put the new stuff on it, it just kind of feels weird.
And this is something I've honestly been complaining about for at least 10 years.
There's something about the old graphics that the mood's right, because like you're just like, where the f am I? What is all this shit? Whereas like this one, you're kind of like, oh, that's nice. I can see everything.
Like, let's just break down the opening shot of the game for a second. The stars are beautiful, the Pillar of Autumn looks great, and as we swing around to what should be our eye following the ship, and of course the Halo ring, there's this distracting galaxy in the background. It's so beautiful, there's so much more texture everywhere, but my eye doesn't know where to go. And the first time I played this game, all I saw was the ring, which is what the devs wanted you to see. Because it looks out of place, you're so confused with what could this be in the sky? And this new design just kind of muddles all that into one just beautiful image. A lot of people mistake Halo CE's simplicity for limitation. It didn't look that way because of the OG Xbox hardware, but I really believe that simplicity was a choice, especially when considering the game's RTS roots in early development. Look at the big, blocky, yet distinguished Forerunner architecture. It wasn't hyper-detailed, but it had presence. Silhouettes were strong, the interiors were like ancient temples. It gave everything a mythic alien quality that later games often buried under gloss and noise. And honestly, the lighting in the original CE wasn't realistic, it was dramatic. It created shadows and contrasts that made you feel alone. You didn't know what was around the next corner, and that tension made exploring the ring magical. And can we just appreciate the vibe of the original color palette? The original deep greens and eerie purples weren't just eye-catching, they were essential in selling the world as something truly alien and unfamiliar. A vision of sci-fi rooted in that bold, early 2000s design language. But looking at some of these early concept renders Halo Studios shared in their Unreal Engine 5 demo, everything starts to blur together with that hyper-realistic look we see in almost every modern game. Sure, those redwood trees are gorgeous, and it looks like a great place to go for a weekend hike, but that doesn't exactly scream mysterious alien megastructure. Here's where a lot of the remakes or reimaginings get it wrong. They confuse modern with busy. They crank up the bloom, scatter tiny details everywhere, and lose the iconic feel in the process because we are unsure where our eyes are supposed to lead. Halo CE had restraint from the original developers to help players from getting lost or bored within a 30-second loop, and that's what made its visuals powerful. There's a confidence in the way CE presented itself. That doesn't mean you can't modernize it. New tech is great, but modern doesn't have to mean louder. We don't need a bigger Halo, we need a braver one that remembers why we fell in love with this universe in the first place. There's a video on here by the creator of Late Night Gaming that perfectly captures the argument I've been trying to express. It breaks down many of these same thoughts in greater detail, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're interested in a deeper dive. Which brings us to the next step for Halo Studios.
Kinda looks cooler in the old way.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you, man. Every once in a while, like the old game, it was more thought out.
Look, if you've played Halo, you already know it's not just a shooter, it's a shared experience. Couch co-op, late nights on Blood Gulch. For a lot of players, these are core memories. Not just for Halo CE, but all three of the main Bungie trilogy. Sometimes I think we take for granted just how revolutionary that social lobby system was in the early games. For a console shooter, nothing like that ecosystem really existed so seamlessly before Halo 2. And with the invention of apps like Discord, I don't think we are really ever seeing the social aspects and discoverability we had back with those releases.
We didn't put split screen in with Halo 5. I think it's incredibly painful for the community and for us. I think it erodes trust.
So when we talk about a Halo CE remake, we're not just talking about visuals or nostalgia, we're talking about a game that needs to bring back flawless, seamless jump in, jump out co-op. We've been promised that many times over the last two games, but if I'm being honest, Halo 4 was really the last time we had anything that touched on this practice and executed it well. For everything bad I can say about Halo 4, one thing it really did right was a shared experience with friends during the campaign. Hell, I'll even admit Spartan Ops, the post-campaign feature, was a really interesting idea. I have such fond memories playing with friends late at night, every week, extending the story that much further together. It's just a shame there wasn't enough story or really any reason beyond just repeated levels and endless enemy waves for the sake of bloated content. And why stop at 2-player? Let's talk 4-player co-op campaign support, like what we got in Halo 3 and beyond. Imagine storming Silent Cartographer with a full fire team, covering each other with sniper fire, calling out elites, and fighting over who gets the rocket launcher. That's the kind of replayability that gives a remake a reason for me to experience something new. I don't know that it needs 4 players since there's something kind of fun about capturing the same energy as the original limitations, but if we're updating, why not? If Gears of War has taught us anything, a fresh coat of paint doesn't make the game still good. The friends you play with give you that. Whether you're speedrunning the library or fumbling the Warthog, it's that shared sandbox that made Halo special. Alright, I really need Halo Studios to put all their cards on the table when it comes to the Flood. I want them to double down on this iconic enemy type, not just to switch up gameplay, but to prove to all of us they understand the importance of this legacy in the story. The introduction of the Flood is one of my favorite twists in a video game, and it's not even really that much of a twist anymore by today's standards. But the way this all came together back in 2001 was a mind-bending experience. The Flood's introduction in Halo Combat Evolved isn't just a gameplay shift, it's a tonal rupture to the story you thought the game was telling. Up until the mission 343, Guilty Spark, the player's experience is focused on familiar sci-fi tropes. Then without warning, you're thrown into a horror scenario that flips everything on its head. For a modern remake to work, it needs to preserve and even amplify that shock. The Flood shouldn't feel like just another faction, their arrival needs to feel like the floor being ripped out from underneath you. If that terror doesn't land, the emotional arc of the game loses all of its impact. In 2001, the Flood were scary because of what they implied. Grotesque biology, overwhelming numbers, body horror, but modern players, raised on games like Dead Space, The Last of Us, and Resident Evil, are desensitized to basic zombie tropes. That's why a remake needs to rebuild the Flood as a true existential threat, not just by making them more grotesque in design, but by changing how they move, spread, and overwhelm. Smarter AI, unpredictable behavior, dynamic infection mechanics, these can make the player feel hunted and powerless, just like the original mission intended. And I'm not saying the remake needs to become a horror game, but it needs to use horror effectively to unsettle, surprise, and change how the player sees the Halo ring itself. A terrifying Flood encounter grounds the later revelations in emotional truth. The Forerunners were that desperate, and maybe humanity will have to be too. If the remake wants to sell the scale of the Halo universe and the moral weight of its legacy, it starts with fear. When we hit the climax of the third act, I want to feel like I had no other choice than the option of pushing for the limits the story brings our characters to. If they can nail that feeling, I think they have a home run. Because if I'm being honest, I'm not sure Bungie ever nailed the Flood quite like they did in the first Halo. The Gravemind is interesting, the ship crashing on Earth is intriguing, but Halo 2 and Halo 3, for all its victories, sure aren't scary in the same regard.
Kill me or release me, parasite. But do not waste my time with talk.
Until we do see something from Halo Studios, all of this is just speculation. I spent a lot of time trying to pinpoint the key features that would give me confidence in the project, and in doing so, I kept circling back to a few obvious but important ones. Ones that, when I really sat down and analyzed them, didn't have easy answers. The biggest question for me is the original voice cast. Jen Taylor returning as Cortana feels like a safe bet, but what about David Scully as Sergeant Johnson, or more importantly, Steve Downes as the Master Chief? Their involvement feels uncertain, and I can easily see Microsoft leaning into a quality of life refresh with the relaunch of this flagship franchise. If they aren't part of the game, that's a huge red flag for me, though I also understand if it might be a limitation the studio is facing. As much as I love Steve and his iconic portrayal of Chief, I can't help but wonder how long they plan to continue working with him. His performance in Halo Infinite was incredibly nuanced and emotional, that comes not just from the writing, but from his voice and age. There's a kind of swan song quality that would be hard to replicate, and I hope they don't tarnish that with this release. They'll most likely remix existing audio, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I really believe casting matters, as we just talked about in my last Silent Hill video, whether it's for this game or the next. This feels like a major crossroads for Halo Studios and the future of the franchise, because AI, and I swear to God if they end up just data mining Steve's voice from now until eternity, I don't know if I'm going to be playing the series anymore. That said, did I miss anything? What matters most to you in the upcoming Combat Evolved remake? And do we expect to see them bringing the original trilogy the same treatment? Because if this goes well and breathes new life into the series, I can only feel the need to finish the fight will be greater than ever. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all the silly things, because it really does help the channel in fighting the algorithm. I'll see you next time, and don't forget to turn on your flashlight.